I never understood the rivalry between the USSR and the USA. If you are the president of the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic, kill people in your own country. If you're the president of the United States of America, you kill people in foreign countries. What's the moral differentiation between the outcome of capitalism and totalitarian communism to take conflicting positions exactly? Ironically, the Soviet Union's collapse led to the formation of Russia, with an oligarchic capitalism that is also now inevitably serving its natural self-sustaining purpose as all capitalist systems must do, that of killing foreigners in Ukraine. This shows how the entire modern discourse has not some noble goal to deliver an efficient life-serving system, but the tribal vengeance to declare my side is better than yours. Anthropologically true, all things considered. It never was with an end goal of some noble achievement for humanity. It always was, in reality, about outstripping each other and being superpowers. Academia, mostly Western, turned it into a discourse of contentious dialectics. My economic system is better than yours. It's a very clear line of contention, having no more real-world implication except being a brilliant divide between social identities in a university campus with fragmented, what I like to call, tribe identifiers. This would put the ensemble of French philosophers, particularly Derrida and Foucault, in a paradoxical position. Spearheaders of the Nietzschean conceptions of the world being inextricable power structures, and the privilegification of academic discourse of these matters as abstract but important, to give its clueless subjects the power to virtue signal, project aristocracy, or things of that sort. For those who say, what about the civil liberties under social liberalism like the United States, or the literacy rates under the Soviet Union? Well, it isn't dismissing the positives to point out the negatives that in reality happened, but academia has been actively in denial of and arguing for other sides. Capitalism kills foreigners. Communism kills domestically. How is this a negation of any positive outcome brought upon by these two systems? Besides, Western ideologies based on axiomatically subjective first principles rooted in racial tribalism to the core have absolutely no causative relationship with objective material development. What I mean to say here is that the Industrial Revolution would have also naturally happened in what we would call today a backward monarchy, like for example the Roman Empire, which historically almost did. And yes, I was also shocked to find out that the Roman Empire during antiquity was closer to developing steam engines than many subsequent chapters and empires in history after that, all the way to the 18th century. Crazy, right? This is my argument as to why the overwhelming causative relationship between liberal capitalism and objective material development people see is actually not as strong, as long as the development in question is being sanctioned by a resourceful authority. Now, there are two questions arising when I make this statement. Does that mean you support communism? And what's the point in material development if a small group of centralized totalitarian group is sanctioning it for their own gain? Let me address them one by one. For the first one, no, I obviously do not support one extreme and arguing for the other extreme by necessity, although there is nothing extreme about most of the views I've cited in my discussion so far. But I do think there is great merit in calling out the standard discourse over these historically and socioeconomically vast and out-of-reach realities, which in a way reduced the realness of the historical narratives and turned them into mere subjects of abstract mythologies clashing with one another. As for the second concern, I do admit that capitalism as a system, encompassing most of its forms as classically implemented in the United States, is extremely great at distribution of material development, whether sanctioned by private or state actors. Which to me is a bit ironic since in comparison of distribution of what makes life easier as an encompassing sphere, not taken into account the often cited but relatively obscure statistics of unhappiness associated with corporate environments, traditional capitalism does better at distribution than traditional communism, which often devolves into systematically oppressing its own people. Practically, and historically at least, in theory there could exist perfect implementations of Marxism, capitalism, and all the adjacent isms surrounding these. But what difference does it make if its implementation in reality is infinitely more nuanced? A communism without gulags and dictatorial monoculture, or a capitalism without soulless corporatism and consumerism. What is the objective unit through which the quote-unquote success of a society can be measured by for us to even pick a vast system of societal governance? Throughout this entire video, my point is that academic discourse imposes its own narrative of ideological superiority on the historical rivalry between the USSR and USA, ignoring the fact that most of the actions and consequences by these two states were done so with a political lens of neorealism, wherein only harnessing of power over the competing entities seen as sovereignty, not ideological wins in a campus or even the favor of the masses.